Welcome to the Occult Rejects. In this episode, we got a bunch of us here, and I'm going to just start off introducing everybody, and let's get to it. Today, we got Lisa, the Occult Reject Mad Scientist, with us. What is going on, Lisa? How are you?
I am good. I'm looking forward to this. High energy.
Yes,
Sure.
yes, for sure. It's great to get all of these on at the same time, too.
Absolutely.
And we got Ricardo from the Institute for Natural Philosophy joining us as well today. It's always a pleasure, sir. So, Ricardo.
Pleasure and a privilege. Thank you
Yes.
very much. I'm quite eager to see what I'm going to learn today on your show. So thank you very much for that.
And if you can, please let everybody know where they can find your stuff as well.
Oh, sure. So you can find me on at X at Ricard Calvary 1, and you'll have all the links and even the connections to my books, and it's all there. So
Awesome. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
And then to Ethan Indigo. What's going on, Ethan? How are you?
Greetings, Nick. Thanks for putting this together, Don. I'm excited to hear what you have to say. This is going to be fun.
That's what you say now, sir.
I'm a writer on the esoteric and exoteric, and just finished an article on Occult Rejects. More to come, and I'm on all the usual social media. Again, Don, excited for this.
Awesome. Thank you very much, sir. And yes, please go check out his all the stuff that he has put on the occultresearchinstitute.org and check out his books. And he will be coming on soon to finally talk about one of them. So keep a lookout for that. And then we got Heidi Love. What is going on, Heidi? Our favorite Mormon Slayer. What's up?
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. Hi to all the rejects. Happy to see everybody. And to Don, thank you for coming today. I am Heidi Love at the Unfiltered Rise, everywhere podcasts are served. And I do have my own website, unfilteredrisepodcast.com. Thank you so much. Thanks, boss.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. And last but not least, we got the man himself, the Headless Giant.
How you doing? So I'm the Headless Giant. You can find me doing trialogues normally at this time, or you can find me on Thursdays with the Headless's magical mailbag, and you can send me your occult / metaphysical / magical stories at the Headless Giant podcast or at gmail.com. So thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, send out those emails. Stop slacking. All right. Okay. Now, finally, on to the guest. You may all know him, seeing him in the chat constantly. What's up? Donald Ferguson, finally. Don, I don't know if you have anything to plug or how you want to introduce yourself, but if you want, let everybody know, I guess, what your deal is and what we're going to get into today.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for having me here. I can't see you guys because I'm horrible. I've never used this technology. My first time. Anyway, I can hear you, and you introduced who's here so I can imagine your faces. It's wonderful listening to you guys' show. I'm glad to be here. I think you got the right people with you today. To hear this, I got a couple of choice pieces for Headless. We're not going to go by email. We're going to do it live. Your whole entire group of people that Nick, has blown my mind. It's been incredible. I'm a skateboarder, okay? A fatherless child. My father was officer in the Air Force. I moved around the country, lived on Air Force bases. I didn't get a father. He was in Vietnam, 3 tours, Vietnam, Korea, ran off to do mid-air refueling. And so I had little troubles in school. Basically, I failed every grade from 3rd grade through 12th with E's and F's. I broke my mother's heart. My parents didn't know what to do. I went to school. I listened to it. I passed it. I passed a test, and then I'd get yelled at by the teacher. How can you pass a test? You got to be cheating. They just go nuts. Just gave up. I'm like, whatever, dude. I can do it. I can hear you. I'm watching you people scribble on that blackboard. You know what I mean? And so I went to college. I got an A+ in psychology, did a couple classes. I'm basically working minimum wage, making no money. I can't afford to do it. So I took the route that always did me well. I was a hyperactive kid. They gave me two recesses at school. All the other kids got 1. They gave me 2 just to try to calm me down. for the rest of the day. And then I went out and did extreme sports, skydiving, snowboarding, sailing. Pretty much took some hits along the way, but I'm here to live to tell about it. So, but you know what? One day I was jumping out of an airplane. I left Ennis, Texas. The winds are about 15 miles an hour, so we got to scoot over just a little bit west. And I'm jumping out in Waxahachie, Texas, right over top of the Atom Smasher, the super collider they were building right here, George Bush's baby. And so that got my attention. I'm looking down. I got the view from above this thing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and then it gets worse. Check it out. I get back to the drop zone, and the guy who taught me how to jump goes, "Yeah, I worked there." I freaking worked there, bro. Are you kidding me? So it got me interested. And then I started studying on my own, studying particle physics and nuclear powers, stuff like that. Everything I could get my hands on. I got hungry for knowledge. And when I started looking at it, I realized I can do this work. I read this paper is fine. I understand all the conceptual material. I understand every bit of it. It's no big deal. So, and I found it pleasurable. Whether I can get the piece of paper on the wall or not doesn't matter to me. The things that I found were amazing. I've had to dig through a lot of work. I didn't shy away from anybody's work. And I believe there's a little bit of truth in everything. It doesn't really matter how much we got wrong. You can read anybody's work, and you're going to find a little bit of truth in everything, I think. That's where I come from. I don't know what to tell you. Try my best. Hello?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah, I had myself muted. I just realized that too. I'm like, this guy can't tell that like I'm muted or whatever.
As long as I can hear you, I'm good.
So what now with this whole that other stuff you're just talking about, nuclear power and the other things? I guess did that take you down like a rabbit hole with the occult and understanding other things?
Everything does. We got listen. I dove into the Bible, and and when I did that, I found out. I go, the science it's a science book. It's a science book. The church literally took out the parts that would attract me to the church, and I couldn't believe it. And then the science. I work in the science field. I do technology. I do the craziest shit you don't even want to know. I've only had weird jobs my entire life. I've only had strange jobs, bro. And so, and I'm blessed for that, I think. And the science people won't talk to the spiritual people. The spiritual people won't talk to the science people. And they're talking about the same thing. Yeah, last time I checked. So
I believe that.
It's not too much different. Why would it be?
Don, if I could jump in there. So it sounds like you've got a very highly associative mind, which doesn't play out well in school because you get things and then you move on and everybody else is still hanging back. And then you end up doing well on the test and everybody else is like, you got to be cheating or something. But that's not really how it works. And they only cater to a certain way of learning when there are so many different ways of learning that, are out there. And I also wanted to say, once you see something and get interested in it, that's when you dive in and learn everything about it, which is not good for siloing, which is one of the reasons why schools end up going this route of only teaching a certain way, because they want people to be siloed later on when they get out of school.
It's, I'm good with that. I think that's definitely part of the agenda in the background. But at the same time, everybody's being shoved around. The teachers are being shoved around. The kids are being shoved around. The parents are being shoved around. I'm here to make money. We're all being shoved around, bro. So add that on top of what you just said, and we have a real problem.
Yeah, I have a kid. Sorry, go ahead.
Go on, Heidi. Please do. Please.
I was just going to say my 11-year-old breaks the system every day, and I am in the principal's office more than she because I do not allow them to stifle my daughter because I think it's crap, and I do not allow them to medicate her, and they can deal with it. Like, I just don't agree with that. And I'm not saying you can't medicate your child. Just for me and my child, that's not healthy for her. She was really sick when we tried that, and so, you guys can do what you want. But I agree with Dawn. I think some of these people, if they tested their IQ at a really low age, they might see the ones that don't want to hold still are pretty smart. So
I think I was in the chat dropping a line about the emotional quotient. In my life, I had no people skills. I didn't really have a handle on the language. And so I didn't know what to say. And I reacted poorly emotionally along the way. I suffered because of that. That's as valuable as anything. If you don't have your act together emotionally, your IQ is not going to help you. I believe that.
absolutely. But I think it's sad that we don't focus more on teaching that and that skill than we do sit down and shut up. So
That's just my personal. That's my personal thing. You know what I mean?
Agree.
Yeah, I think I would have done fine if I had the emotional fortitude, to back up. I do have it now. I've been through so much crazy stuff in my life. It doesn't even matter, bro. I got thick skin from dealing with the world. So,
Don,
it is what it is. Yeah.
Don, I have a quick question. Your time in Ennis and Waxahachie, did you live there or were you stationed there or how was that?
Oh, listen, I'm not a military. I've never served. Listen, I'm a technician. Okay. I do weird ass work that allows me to get onto Air Force bases. I've dealt with the Navy, the Air Force, the Coast Guard. I keep their shit from blowing up, their helicopters and they keep their boats from exploding and shit like that, We do ejection seat, for the aircraft, all that good stuff. We do it's tied into a fire system. So anyway.
Did you, like, in your time of jumping over Waxahachie, is it pretty much abandoned out there? I mean, I've driven out past there years ago.
They finished it. It's finished. It's done. They finished it anyway.
So then all of the propaganda of like, we ran out of money, we're not going to continue this, that was disinformation and they continued the job.
Well, when you say they, it's never always everyone.
Okay.
I remember the battles. I was fairly young, and that would have been roughly around 1993. And that I was there jumping over. And then I've been through there. Yeah, I lived around there. I lived in Dallas. I lived actually about 11 miles, maybe about 14 miles northwest of Dallas, or northeast of Dallas. A place called Lake Tawakoni, just north of where Jamie Foxx grew up.
In your opinion, yeah, go ahead, Ellis.
Don, have you heard of the giant Tesla coil that's just south of Dallas?
Yep.
Do you have any information on that? I think I've been interested for several years now, and I haven't heard any leaks or anything coming out of there.
I don't have any information for you, bud. I'm a long way from there right now, but I know I've seen pictures of it. It doesn't look like it's hyper functional, but it doesn't look like anything small either. I'm more than positive it's been messed with or tested, or it's parked for a later day.
Yeah, I think these are all good possibilities, but we're seeing so many different breakthroughs when it comes to satellite technology and the transmission of electricity and all the rest of this stuff that's coming about right now that a lot of people don't have the pulse on that. They're talking about being able to energize anywhere in the world using pulses from satellites to the ground.
All right.
That's going to be changing the game.
Your atmosphere has megatons of charged transfer salts in it, bro. It's a whole game changer. You have a charged atmosphere. It's a whole game changer, bro. Yeah, of course we could do that now. Of course we can.
I have another question about Waxahachie. So Waxahachie sits on a similar latitude to Alamogordo. And if you know, I'm sure you do, about all of the testing with Oppenheimer out in New Mexico. And then as well as the latitude, you take it all the way down to California. And you have almost the similar types of experiments, but not as much as hard science, nuclear physics type stuff, but more mental, experimental with behavioral physics taken into the brain and so forth. So would you think that that is somewhat related in a sense?
I know
Was
it
it
is.
like or something?
I know it's related. It's not a question. I have full lifetime experience of looking right at it. When we get into what Headless likes to hear about, like, we're not going to do it by email stories, but listen, somewhere close to the end of this conversation, I'm going to tell you about some experiences I had that should clear that up for you. If that makes any sense.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I won't forget about it.
No, we'll bring it back up too. Don't you
Okay,
worry.
excellent. Good.
yeah.
It's fine. I'm good.
Oops, sorry. I don't know. Where did you? I know you had mentioned something about. I try to think of maybe a good way to touch on this with the whole COVID and the Egyptian thing, and then there was something about the stuff in the skies. I don't know which one. Maybe you want to go on with first. Maybe the one with the skies.
You pick, bro. You pick.
The one with the skies. Maybe we'll go with that one first.
Oh wow. Okay. Well,
Safer.
let me explain my background. Okay, I had a career in optics when I was young, and we did done a lot of thin film deposition, filters. I did work for Verilux, Carl Zeiss, Nikon. I did work for General Motors, Auto Glass, a lot of specialty glass work, mineral glass, and we temper mineral glass in molten salt. It's a step away from a nuclear reactor. Take the glass out, and that's what you got.
Oh, that's weird. Is that what they're putting in the skies?
Is that the
but the job might. So that was one job I had. Let me tell you what it is. So when I was about 17 years old, some old man said, "You're a punk in the street. You need a job. Get your ass in here." Part of my job was to temper flint, lead, cobalt, fluoride, crown glass, silver halide glass, and molten salt. It's liquid salt. It's the same thing you have 60 years ago in this country, as a nuclear reactor. Little tiny version. And then later, I was doing special hazards fire protection, and that gets pretty interesting. Okay, and metallic salts are a hazmat issue. It's part of National Fire Protection Association Code 2001. And so I dealt with that. I had two careers that tell me what's in the sky, bro. I had to be that dude. You get me?
That's really interesting. So with the molten salt reactors, I'm pretty sure that they're used in getting rid of the stuff that's normally considered toxic nuclear waste from other nuclear reactors. Like they can run them through the molten salt reactor and then, get rid of their toxic chemicals. Is that what's going into these salts? Is that what they're using?
Okay. Well, they never stop working in the background. So you're dealing with a new brand, the new high-tech version of the firework. It doesn't work on the molecular side. It works on the atomic side. It takes a primer to prime it into a position to exhibit its behavior.
Did you come out to Utah to the San Rafael Energy Lab and do work out here, or know anything about Mormon involvement with this molten salt?
You know what? I was on the Salt Flats. I cruised through there. I've been across the country. I've been down every back road in this country, Canada, Mexico. But I did my work a little differently because I would work a job. I would save my money. When you're working for a company and they want to give me a week's vacation after a year, I'm like, this fucking sucks. I go, oh, look. So I would work for like 3-4 years, save all my money, and then quit and just say, yeah, I'm quitting. They're like, you're quitting? I go, yeah. Because I'm disappearing. I'm going to go ride around the country for like 6 months. And I go where I want to go, When I run out of money, I'll find another job, I guess. And so I've been through, I went out to Utah. I did some snowboarding up in Park City, Bryan Head. I've been out there through the summertime and the Salt Flats and all that. But I was not there for work. I was there for play, basically.
Gotcha.
Good. I have a quick question. The molten salt reactor, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it used to generate electricity? And I had heard that, I've never seen it, that's why I said I hear it, that electricity can make glass like on the sand, like on the beach. Is it the same concept? Is it the same process in using molten salt generating electricity in a reactor to create some of this glass?
It's more along the lines of generating heat.
Okay.
And the salt
Gotcha.
allows you to monitor, just like the control rod allowed you, Einstein, to slow down the major reaction, the big reaction. The salt lets you temper the reaction. It's molten. It isolates the event in its own way. It controls the heat factor.
Like a buffer?
A great buffer. Salt is an incredible buffer.
Mhm.
Exactly. It does more than that. It buffers the metal from the outside world, and you can't tell. So if I have my metallic portion plunged into molten salt, half the trick, the little trick they do, it can't sense the outside world. When it decays, it just goes back to what it was because it doesn't know what to do. In that case, it's self-feeding and it'll run forever.
So what they use molten salt for that people would know is these giant solar panels that focus the energy onto a single point in the middle, and then it causes that molten salt reaction, which stays heated for far longer than any other material. So once it gets to
Well,
that molten state, it stays in that thermal expansion phase.
no, exactly. You said it. Well, I couldn't say it any better myself. Yeah, you know what? It takes heat. It works like an oil when it's molten, so it holds heat longer.
So, but you're talking about salt or sodium chloride? Because salt has several components.
Yes, dude. There's so many different salts out there to blow your mind. We can't even go through the list. So when I used to temper glass in molten salt, I had different baths for different minerals.
Okay.
And the list is so extensive, it's insane. You're not wrong, though. There's different ways to do everything. There's 9 ways to do everything.
And how do you relate that to what is being sprayed? Sorry, Ethan.
How do I relate it to it?
Yes.
Because I'm looking at it. Hey, listen, let me explain something. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be excited, but when my clouds are drifting through the sky like a desert fucking sand, it ain't water. Fair enough? Holy shit. Listen, I got hundreds of jumps out of an airplane. I sail boats all the time. I've snowboarded every major peak in North America. And tell me, I'd spend more time outside than anybody you'll ever understand. When I was a baby, my mom used to work. She's coming home from dinner. We're coming up for dinner. I was a baby, but she woke me up to get me in the house. She used to hold me outside, and we'd look at the stars. Man, she's holding me like this. Oh, look at the stars. So my dad used to fly. He was a navigator in a DC-10 at the time, and my mom. We lived right there outside of the Air Force, outside of Dover at the time. And so she's like pointing me at the sky. Oh, your dad. Your dad's in an airplane. Probably not him, but it's the same idea. She knew what the plane looked like. So, when a guy's missing his father, I guess mom does what she can do. And so I'm used to looking at the sky. I walk outside the sky, look at the sky every day. When I go outside, this whole part of my vision is half of my world. The other half, depending on where I'm at, sometimes I have a good horizon, which tells you a lot of things too. We'll get into that mound stuff. But sometimes my view is blocked by buildings and trees. So there's really not much you're going to see on the ground anyway, but the sky gets your attention. It got my attention my whole life. I know what the sky is supposed to look like. When I grew up blue sky with a yellow sun. I walk outside right now and I got a white sun and a white sky. And I'm not the only one that knows that. So take a look at it. And here's the thing. It's the type of dust and it's the consistency of the white haze in the sky. When I used to look down on salt baths, it's like a milk. It's like a milk. that crazy movie that Angelina Jolie was in called Wanted, where they're in the attic. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm not sure,
Sorry,
but
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, actually, I don't think I did.
I had something to back you up. They've done the chemical analysis on this haze, and one of the major components is barium salts. So aluminum and barium salts.
Yes, exactly. The name of aluminum is what? The ancient name, the ancient one. When they did this last time, we'll get to that too. This ain't the first time this shit's been done. Aluminum is bitter salt. That's what it's known at. Known by from a long time ago, anyway.
Yeah, I was not doubting you that chemtrails
No,
are
no.
real.
No, you
I'm
guys are
just
nailing
saying
it, bro.
that.
Yeah,
I'm just saying
you guys
that
are nailing it. I get excited
How-
because I know what it is. I get excited because I know what it is, and it makes me nervous, and I'm a little bit angry that the whole story isn't being told. Okay, you can tell me you're blocking the sun. Oh, that's fine. But when I have something, when I understand dual use technology, and I understand there's usually a lot of different things that can happen. You get byproducts with things, you get other things, you get side effects, whatever you want to call it. And there's more to the story than just blocking the sun, Bill. Anyway,
True.
it does
I
that.
was just
Makes it
finding
cooler.
it. Yeah, I was just finding it interesting because when they tested Mount Sasha on the peak of the chemtrail operation, they
Oh,
found
yeah.
out that the aluminium on the ice was 3,000% plus above the legal level. But they also found barium,
Yep.
thorium, and I'm now relating to the nuclear thing that you were referring to. So I never connected to these things. So I found it curious.
This is why they're banning the rainwater collections and all kinds of different things. This plays
Oh.
completely to what you're saying, Don. Yeah.
Think about this for a second. Every metal has a salt, and each and every one of those metals has a very specific type molecular component that gives it all of these magnetic properties and different. I mean, so all of these different things are not being explored by chemists supposedly openly, but there's like a whole new tool chest of different salts that can be used for different things that doesn't seem to be getting attention.
To go back to
It's
your
very exciting. Hey, okay, so check this out. Let me top off something he just said. So we start out with like peroxy salts, man, how women color their hair back in the day. They got rid of it. They changed the formula. It used to smell so bad you had to leave the house while she's getting her hair colored, stuff like that. So, and perm and all that. You get into the borderline peroxy salt, charge transfer salt, and you're talking about fireworks. And the different metals show the different colors in the fireworks. You're still at the basic level. Then we get a little bit deeper into some high tech with these salts.
That's how we do our astronomy. We do our astronomy based off of the spectroscopy they get from these chemical salts. And so they assume that's what all these different places are made out of. But how much would that change if you're coloring the atmosphere to now have this white shift?
What's crazy about that question you just asked? There's almost no input from amateur astronomers or astronomy in general on this topic. Right. For some reason, they're acting like it's not going to happen. It's not happening. One guy I heard talk, he said, in my daughter's lifetime, ground telescopes are going to be useless. And he's pissed off about her not being able to take in the stars, as a human being. So
most have been decommissioned. Yeah. I had something with the molten salt, going back to that there. I believe the first experiment was done at Oak Ridge. So it is a highly classified experiment that was conducted. And then if you move fast forward into the timeline, I believe Bill Gates had funded a venture called Terra something. And it was to bring back the whole molten salt thing. And you said block out the sun, and who has been the most vocal proponent blocking out the sun, you have enter Bill Gates. And so when you look back at his the funding of his ventures, and you see the connection with TerraPower and molten salt, it almost, this has been in the works for a while. Yeah. So when you mentioned that, that jogged my memory. So it's interesting.
Well, let me explain. None of this is new. None of this is new. None of it. This goes back so far back, most people can't comprehend it. Way back. But you're not wrong. I understand. That is exactly what you said is what I understand as well, as far as the modern day, goes. But so I have dust in my sky that does 12 different things. What part would you like to handle? These are soft absorbable heavy metals that could cause dementia, Alzheimer's, the health problems. It has aluminum salt, which can literally interfere with seed inhibition. And now that seed that usually is there and has built-in information, it knows when to sprout. It can sense when the temperature and the moisture are correct in order to sprout and seed, and dig into the ground. You got the foot root that digs into the ground. Well, that's going bye-bye. It's called salting the earth. Okay, it's an ancient practice where when they conquered a city, they would scatter salt all over the ground so that those people could not grow food.
Sure, there might be some kind of connection to the fact that he is the biggest landowner in the planet, because people sold their lands because they couldn't make anything out of it, and so they're sold much cheaper than normal. So that he might have something to do with that. So he made the soil just not productive anymore, and people are forced to sell it.
And he has the major stock in John Deere. And like, if you know anything about John Deere, you buy any of his combines or whatever, you cannot repair those things on your own. You have to have some technician from John Deere who brings in parts that are patented, even down to the screw. You cannot repair that stuff on your own. You're talking about combines that are costing anywhere between $400,000 to $600,000, and then as well to repair it, it's almost the equivalent of as expensive. So when you look at how much land he doesn't own, but he owns a majority of John Deere. I believe some other agricultural stuff. You're looking at his ventures into molten salt and what have you. And I will even add on top of that, if you look at a majority of the vaccines that were developed starting late 1950s, early 60s, most of them had aluminum in them to serve adjuvant. And what that does is it basically pisses your immune system and causes it to produce antibodies to whatever the aluminum is tagged to. So say that you got whatever, and you tag it to an aluminum, your immune system recognizes not only the particle that it's supposed to create an antibody to, but it also creates an antibody to aluminum. So anytime you see aluminum, you're going to elicit an immune response based on vaccine theory. And so if you're breathing it in, it's not allergies, it's not the pollen, it's the aluminum. If you eat off of aluminum, you get allergies. It's not the aluminum thing, it's the allergy you have developed because of prolonged exposure to aluminum in vaccine therapy.
Chronic illness in the United States is big business. I was just saying, chronic illness is big business. I mean, that's where we are.
Sorry, Headless. No, I was just going to say, who is a huge stockholder in pharmaceuticals, and also with the number one stockholding of Bill Gates, is second only to Bill Gates with farmland ownership, is the LDS Church. And so the LDS Church has, Bill Gates in mind when they look at things, because you would want your number one person that you're investing in to do well, obviously, and then vice versa. They're backing each other with this ownership of land, let alone the seed vaults that he owns with Bill Gates. So, I mean, there's been a lot of experimentation with the salts and different things in Utah because of all the salt production in the Great Salt Lake. And it's salt that is, he's correct, Don's correct, there's so many salts, it would blow your mind. But one thing about here in the Great Salt Lake is there's no other salt like it in the world. The next closest is the Dead Sea, but it's very different and also has a huge portion of arsenic in this. You can't even eat this salt. So they have a huge population here because of testing and nuclear testing of downwinders, which they've sued for. So, I mean, you want to talk about, pollution and skies and problems, and Utah's right there, and the Mormons are right behind them. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
If you control the food as he's trying to, if you control the fields as he's trying to, if you control the seeds as he's trying to, if you control the fertilizers that he's trying to control, if you control all of that, how soon can he implement his plans of giving synthetic meat and synthetic fish and whatever to people that is much more cost effective to the production? You don't need to care about the consumer, because there's a lot of people always dying and always giving birth, so you always have consumers because they don't have anything else to eat, and that will not work outside America, I tell you that, because there's a lot of places in Europe that already kick him out because they were killing the fields. Literally, it was killing the fields.
He's wanted for war crime, his crimes against India and some parts of Africa.
He's a criminal. If he puts his feet on one of those countries in Africa, he's booked. There, his Illuminati connections will not help him, because they don't care about it. So, what he did to people there, from the polio vaccine causes, with more than 70% of the children with paralysis, parts of the body for the rest of their life. After what he did to the farmers by bringing in the new programs of food production, where he's forced people to stop producing what they produced, and they start producing what they were supposed to sell to him, and then people realize that they couldn't eat what they are producing, and so they are starving because it's microfields. It's very small productions where people used to produce food and sell from those that they produce. They can't do it anymore. So they couldn't. So that's why one of the reasons he was also kicked out, because none of his plans work but for himself. I'm sorry for the rant.
Sorry, I just want to answer one thing, is that also add Gardasil to that. He made a bunch of females sterile by using India and African women or young girls for his clinical trials of Gardasil. And
exactly.
And tetanus vaccine.
Yeah, that made them sterile. Sorry, that was it.
They just repackaged what they put in the tetanus vaccine into Gardasil, but it was the same program, and they had it in India and Africa. And it's so similar to all this stuff they did with the Tuskegee experiments and all these different locations. It wasn't just Tuskegee, Alabama. It was also in Puerto Rico. They've had to pay out millions. This is a long track record of working as a means of generating wealth. So when that comes out, I don't think there's anything that's going to stop people from dismantling this entire system. It's disgusting.
Can I add to that a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, so, I mean, it wasn't too long ago I heard somebody from the United Nations telling us, oh, we shouldn't get to grow our own garden because we're not as efficient at it. Okay, this is so sick. If you people don't understand how sick and shitty these people are, let me explain something to you. You look at the mass production of food and how they call it efficient. Okay, they call it efficient. If I can grow my own garden, you don't need to be so efficient at the farm. Maybe I don't need to be as efficient. Okay, maybe I just like to spend time gardening. Maybe that's a good thing for me. Maybe it keeps me out of trouble. You know what I mean? Does it matter how efficient it is if it's just me in my yard? So their whole argument is incredibly terrible to the soul, not just the body.
Sure, the plan has always different levels of and different functions. So I'm not sure if it's true, but I heard that some states, not for now, but probably 3-4 years ago, that some states in the U.S. people were forbidden to creating eatables on the front of the house. I'm not sure if on the back they could, but on the front of the house, where they have the typical porch and whatever, they couldn't produce any kind of food because it was illegal. But in terms of Europe, just let me say this, in terms of Europe, for instance, we managed to kick Bill Gates out. Some countries did, but still the EU is controlling the seeds. So who's controlling the EU? Because our farmers cannot take the seeds from the best seeds from the last crop, as we used to do for millennia, and plant them again. It's completely illegal. You have to buy to the government every year the seed of the type of production that you are going to do. You cannot do it yourself. It's illegal. So they still have the control, even if there is not that lunatic on top of it.
Yep. Well, there's a lot of people living on the backs of other people. There's people people. There's people that work hard, and everybody kind of, most people work. There's people that actually really don't do anything, and they're in these positions. They got their, there's certain type of clothing they wear, and they go. They're not going to get their hands dirty, bro. They're not going to help us feed anybody. They're not going to do any of that, bro. We gotta make sure they're taken care of too. And they're so paranoid about being less than adequate or willing to jump in if days get hard and be part of helping grow the food.
Marx called them the petite bourgeoisie. And I think at some level that class of people is going to show the most resistance to having any sort of change, even though it's killing them and it's obvious.
Sounds right. Sounds good. Yep.
I wanted to, if I may, to backtrack to the concepts around the atmospheric changes, in at least visible, and the atmospheric changes relative to the salts. This is year 80 of the nuclear experiment. So I guess that Trump just signed an executive order on expansion of certain nuclear experiments related to energy. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I don't know the exact contents of it either, but it's going to make it easier to produce nuclear power generation facilities. I think it was the main thing. But I wonder what you think. One thing, we don't know much about the nuclear experiment, and what we do is belittled. That one of the first meltdowns in the United States was in Southern California. It wasn't a salt reactor, but it was a sulfur reactor. That's Santa Susana. I wonder, what you've heard about the nuclear experiment and your engagements in the Air Force and so on. And there's another experiment that is taking place in the United Kingdom that curiously was called the Satan experiment. This standing for stratospheric aerosol transport and nucleation. And I was ignorant exactly to what nucleation meant before I saw this experiment, but nucleation is essentially bringing vapors into droplets, is one example of nucleation. And they're using, apparently in this experiment, they were using a form of sulfur dioxide. And I wonder if they're not trying to interact with the atmosphere in different ways than just cooling it or blocking the sun. I wonder if they're trying to influence some of the remnants of the nuclear experiment that detonated all these earthly elements into the atmosphere, most of which came down as fallout, but some of which is currently there. So yeah, just to finish, I wonder what you think about them using sulfur to maybe cause these remnants to fall out. Thank you, host, everyone.
Well, I was going to say about the sulfur dioxide, that would make the atmosphere more yellow. That's not what they're using right now. So there could be an aspect of trying to change the color of the atmosphere with the sulfur dioxide, which, right now, that's not a big part of their formula.
It apparently sulfur dioxide is it joins together very easily with other metals, is one of the attributes of it too. So again, I don't know. Headless, you could be right. I have no idea, but I just speculate that it's up there doing something like to cause these stratospheric elements to fall down. And forgive the long, lengthy question.
It's okay to fall down. You know, they got plans to dump 26 tons of liquid sulfur in the atmosphere at 70,000 feet. You already have a whole massive ton of metallic salts in the sky. When one passes through the other, there's going to be a massive ion exchange. It's just going to join with the other metals. It's going to cause some crazy shit. I don't think people really understand. This is not just benign. This is not benign experimentation. They get information from sources you wouldn't expect, and not all the science is new. So, I mean, use your imagination. It's not hard to figure out, man. You know, it's not hard to figure out. I really don't even want to say it to you.
I'll
What do you
say it.
get?
They've
You get- What do you get when you dump liquid sulfur through metallic salt, thousands of the width of a human hair? It's soft, absorbable metallic salt with liquid sulfur. You get sulfur hail, maybe, possibly. Could it go wrong?
That sounds biblical.
Supposed to. You think these people don't read them books? Come on, man. Where do you think they got half their science from? Stop.
They wrote them.
They got the rest of them too hidden. They got them.
Exactly. I read that book and I went, what? I go, what?
That's
So
going to be crazy for England. Didn't they already approve the spraying of sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere over England?
That was in this experiment. So someone must have proved it somewhere, but it was an experiment that they haven't not released the results yet, but someone leaked the operation of it.
Well, the UK is now starting a campaign to block the sun publicly.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. But what they are going to use, they didn't divulge yet. Not to my knowledge, at least. What
Well,
I know
and
is
as
that,
we
go on,
ahead.
Heidi. Go on.
We're done. Oh, I was just going to say, as we were speaking about before we went live, every time we talk about nuclear and every time we talk about, firmamental or type of layers of reality, what comes next, right? It's aliens. I'm going to tell you that right now, or spirits, or whatever you want to say. But when you get into Steiner and mix this in, then I have questions.
The stated purpose of that the Satan experiment is to block the sun. It is a stated experiment. But if you read that out, it says transport and nucleation. So I just wonder where are they going?
Exactly. That leads me to the question: could this go wrong? On scale.
Well, they are expecting it to go wrong and say, "Oh, we messed up. I'm sorry. Let's do worse next time."
Well, and also when they
exactly.
experiments like this, I think sometimes there's the stated version of the or the stated purpose of the experiment, and then there's the more covert reason for the experiment. So they're saying that it is for blocking the sun. So it makes me wonder, what are they really doing?
Look, you
I have Dustin.
Go on, Don.
I have Dustin in my sky that does 12 different things. I can't get through like 3 of them. Hard to get conversation one with people. There's so many things this could do. You have to understand the type of salts. When you look at the level of the technology of the metallic salt molecule that they're at today, the ionically bonded construction allows for bond switching, exposing salt, oxygen, metal at will, and color for the other things.
What I was going to say is, in the UK, they first, some 4, 5, 6 years ago, decided to take all the grants from the farmers. That was the first thing they did. They blame it on the Brexit, they couldn't afford it, whatever, and they took the money from the farmers and they ceased to help them. So the farmers were relaying 50% of their budget for plantation on those grants from the government. And then when they decided to, well, we have to go and find that money some way, so let's open a supermarket from products of the farm right on the farm. Let's open a restaurant or a cafe or whatever and sell the products that we make here on the farm. And the government, the municipalities fell on top of them, saying, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. And so they struggled for many years, and now they are able, thanks to one man, Jeremy Clarkson, funny enough, the guy from Top Gear, he is the one that managed to turn the law, because he's a farm owner, and they now can have restaurants, supermarkets, and whatever. And then what they implement next, so you already don't have the money to produce, now let's take the sun out of you. So the farmers are saying, you already took the money, now you're going to take the sun. How are we going to survive? Are we following again onto that same story of the land worth nothing? And then the farmers are forced to sell and they lose the land, and it's less land that we have to produce good food. So it all falls under the same thing. So they can say, oh, we were wrong and now the fields are ruined, but well, other days will come.
They're unilaterally re-entering the EU. That's what Keir Starmer has publicly announced. So what they're going to do is they're going to sell off all of that land to the EU. It's going to be fucking disgusting. The entire process is so obvious. They're in such debt, they're hemorrhaging. They've got to give all of their farmland over to the EU, and they've got to get all the farmers off of it.
Well, they're all on the same team, and they set the farmers up before they got they started subsidizing, where they started counting on the subsidy. When the subsidy stopped, they were in a position to fail. They got set up to fail.
Well, the good side, as Tolkien so well put it, is a long defeat. So there is no winning at the end, because no one wins a war, but it's exactly. A long defeat.
It's not a win situation. We're not in that type of situation. We're not talking about winning anything. I'm glad you note that.
So Don,
we're talking about fighting it, but what we're talking about, the types of topics that we're talking about, is not a winning situation.
Sure, there's nothing to be done. It's completely out of control.
They're not going to stop themselves. We know that much.
Sure.
There's actually a conspiracy about milk in the United States that goes directly along these lines, because in World War II, they wanted to have these huge ships that could actually have ice cream on the front lines of battle, because one of the ways to show off to your enemies is by having these really robust trade lines. And so they would have these ships that would follow other ships that were full of ice cream for the soldiers, for the sailors out there, just to strike fear in the hearts of the enemy, to show how strong our trade lines were. Well, after the war was over, they didn't stop subsidizing the production of milk in the heartland, so they had to up their subsidies. Well, this made a huge supply of milk that they couldn't get rid of, so they turned it all into cheese. And they buried this cheese underground, and they had like $5 billion worth of cheese that was overproduction from these cows that was generated from this war, and they didn't know what to do with it. So in the 1980s, Ronald Reagan reintroduced this government cheese back into the ghettos. That's what we see as all this, blocks of cheese that went along with the EBT cards. Well, all of that cheese was part of this, Got Milk conspiracy. And then what ended up happening is they couldn't start subsidizing it anymore. So they had an ad agency put cheese into everything. So all of the cheesy crust stuff, all of the cheesy Taco Bell stuff, all of that marketing was from the overproduction of cheese that the farmers eventually had to end up paying for by subsidizing this ad agency that created the Got Milk campaign. So they actually didn't get anything from it, but they're paying for their own enslavement to this overproduction because the government has no idea what it's doing.
Yeah, we're making bad moves and we're suffering the echoes down the line, down the road from those bad choices. Definitely.
Don, do you think that all of these things that we have been talking are any way related to the geomagnetic event? Do you think it will turn out something bad? Do you think that it's just a change of polarities or a wobble? Nothing happened with us. What are your perspectives on that? Do you think they are intently destroying everything because they need not to care, because everything is going to pieces anyway? In terms of, at least in terms of social conditions.
Okay, I look at this a little more from a spiritual standpoint. I look at some of these disgusting things that some of these people think are cute, and when they lie about it, that tells me the condition of the person's heart. And so basically, you're looking at people who, if you look at it in biblical terms, they've been turned over to a reprobate mind. There is no bringing them back, bro. They've been lying so long, they don't know how to do anything but lie. They've been fooling their counterparts so long, they don't want to be embarrassed in front of their own group of assholes they're hanging out with. It's so crazy simple. They're not going to stop themselves. That is all there is to it. They don't know how. You're talking about a magnetic field event. Oh, we got CERN. CERN's over there on the planet. In their terms, we've got this machine on Earth that has 1,000 times the magnetic, or 1,000 times the gravitational pull of Earth itself. Okay. Does that sound, to me, that goes into a conversation about the distortion of a magnetic field, which is a really interesting thing to look at. And it affects the mind. It can affect a lot of things.
That's
Let alone, there's
100%.
not one. Yeah, there's just
Sorry,
not
go-
one. CERN. Yeah, Lisa.
No, that's
Oh, no,
exactly
there's like
it.
18. Yeah. Well, 1,000 times the gravitational pull. Maybe they're going to yank asteroids down on top of your 15-minute freaking city and tell you God hates you. I don't know. You tell me.
Don,
No,
They're not
I
up
got
to good.
They've
got
actually
something.
proven most of the solar activity, whether it's anywhere from solar minimum to solar maximum within that 11-year cycle that sun exhibits, you can see the Schumann resonance. I'm sorry, yeah, the resonance of the human compared to the Schumann resonance to be altered accordingly, and behavior as well. You can almost map it, and that the sun is related to dopamine, serotonin release collectively. So yeah, that has been looked at here recently, and they are making a lot of confirmations with that theory.
Let me touch on that. I'll make it short. Check it out. So I look at the scriptures as a science book. Okay, they say the life is in the blood. I know we got like a single atom of iron in the red blood, so we can go Fe3, Fe4, and back again, and carry oxygen and drop it off, pick some up, drop it off. We got iron in our blood. We supposedly have an iron core of Earth. We got a black sun behind the fire. It looks like a dark spots to me. What's going on? You tell me. Is all this connected? It was Johannes Alfvén and Christian Birkeland, were they correct about the Birkeland current connection? And what is coming in at the poles? And where does it go? Does it go to the core? Does it emanate back out to the oil and the water in a softer way and caress this place? And the bloom of life is insane. And we're connected to that as well. You're not supposed to hurt the oil. Do not hurt the water. I mean, what are we really doing here? You don't need gas to drive across the country. I mean, it's not hydrogen technology. They're not trying to give you. The way to do that properly would be to place the components in light vibrational states and put the fire in the hole remotely. And it can be done. It's a little bit tricky, but it's not as hard as you think. And that way you contain the water in a sealed unit. You don't have to add water. You don't have to add water. You can drink it when you get there, man. And people who discovered this, I've noticed 3-4 people in the past throughout history that discovered it, and either they disappear or they're told, shut the fuck up. This shit happens. You know what I mean?
Well, in terms of the hydrogen technology for cars, for instance, the problem is they are not putting this fuel cell on the car. So you are forced to fuel the car with hydrogen instead of putting water, and the car produces its own electricity by the fuel cell. And that's the stupid thing, because the cheapest part of it is the fuel cell. So, so it makes no sense. So in kids' toys that you can buy to put kids develop scientific projects at home, the vehicles have their fuel cells. That's how simple and that's how not dangerous they are. We just put water on the thing, and the fuel cell of the car makes the car move along. It gives it electricity. But they don't do it on the cars, which I find very curious. Not curious at all. It's obviously intentful.
Okay.
Because
We're on the same page with that. Beautiful. Good
yeah,
job.
because hydrogen
I'm-
is extremely difficult to storage. So the easiest way is to have water, a fuel cell, and consume the hydrogen as soon as you produce it. It's obvious, but they went the other way around.
Yeah, as you go on the fly, right? Produce the hydrogen, split the water as you go.
And that happens in a lot of things. Like they are saying that the new Tesla has solid state batteries. They don't, because we have 4 kids in the new Tesla that fell to a river. We still don't know if they died electrocuted or by the fire, but because as soon as a battery of any electric car is in the material that's inside enters in contact with the atmosphere, immediately it catch fire. Immediately. That's the instantaneous. So these 4 kids have a brand new Tesla. The brand new model. They crashed a small crash, but it was enough to crack one of the batteries. They fell into the water. The doors of the car, the windows, nothing worked. They were stuck inside, and they don't want to tell us if they died drowned or electrocuted, which would be even worse. So we don't know. But the fact is, they're telling people they are selling solid state batteries to the clients. They aren't, because solid state batteries do not catch fire once they are broken. Right. And it exists for 10 years, and they are still not putting that into the cars, which it's
insane. It's this lithium obsession that they have, and it's just like all that's going to do is catch fire and destroy people's lives. There's so many better ways to collect electricity than to use these lithium salts, but again, they're obsessed with it. And anytime it rains or you're on a wet road and you get rear-ended and it cracks that battery, you're in for a fire. And it's just insane that they would put that on our roads.
Well, there are fixes for that, and people aren't looking into liquid metal batteries. You can literally shoot a gun right through the fucking battery. It's still going to work. You're not going to have an issue. It sounds strange. I mean, if you get a chance, take a look into some of the liquid metal battery tech that's out there. They probably aren't going to give it to you.
It's talking about the gel batteries, like on boats?
Nope.
If they stop with all the mining, then the boring company is going to be really upset about that. So they have to have a cover, right? AKA lithium.
So if you own a supermarket and they want to develop something there, they kick you out. But if you own several million dollar business, they cannot get there and say, look, you have to close because this is not ecological, it's not efficient. Yeah, but I have all these machines that worth thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars, so what am I going to do with it? And that's the problem.
I have a little interesting part about the whole CERN thing. If you have a spot that has all of this gravity, and we're going through a phase right now where the core of the Earth is slowing down, creating the opportunity for the shifting of these continents on the surface, because once you've got that generator slowing down, like you could see this with the gyroscope. Once that part slows down, the outside flips.
They shouldn't have fucked around with it to begin with, and now they're going to depend on the slingshot effect to get it going again. Oh my God. Hang on, everybody. It's going to be a hell of a ride, huh?
Yeah, but
I'm just saying it's a 3-body problem, and they don't know what's going to happen.
But the Earth itself, the rotation of the Earth is speeding up. Yeah. So the core is slowing down and the Earth is speeding up. That can't be good.
How many normies do you talk to that even notice the time is going faster? Many now.
I thought it was just because I was getting older.
Yeah. No, that's what I was thinking too. But I was like, I swear, these fly by sometimes.
We could actually see it in the orbit path of the Earth. It's starting to have a greater variance than it used to, which is not good.
Without motion, there is no time. So everything you're saying is 100% true.
Well, and you also start to see with the desynchronization, you're seeing flowers bloom early. So some of the insects, when they are hatching much later than they should, quote unquote, because the flowers have bloomed early. And so when you have that latent period or that gap, you have flowers bloom, they die off, and then the insects hatch, or they come out of pupate or whatever, they pupate out. They don't have any flowers. So then the insects die, and then now the birds don't have any insects to eat. And now you have this desynchronization occurring slowly, but you're starting to see probably what's been happening or accumulating over a few years. So you're starting to see, and when they say, oh, it's climate change, yeah, the climate is changing, but it's not because I drove my car. It's because of this other stuff that's happening. But you just want to tax me for driving my car.
Exactly. 100% man-made climate change. No shit. I watched you change climate so you could tell me it's my fault. Whatever.
Isn't the pavement they put on the streets actually worse than what's coming out of the cars?
Yes. And it actually heats up the planet as well because it stores the heat.
There are ways to get around that too, and they're not really wanting to, there's several colors to cement and concrete and everything else, but you're going straight blacktop.
The car is an element of freedom. So we need to take that from people. So we need cars that are completely automated, where you have to put your card with your social credit. You have to put on GPS where you're going to go, and the car will tell you, yes, sir, you can go there, or no, sir, I cannot take you there.
I don't have enough credits for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the idea is if we can stop everybody else from doing what they'd like to do, then we, as Bill Gates and friends, can do whatever the fuck we want. Because it's not going to have any effect. We just can't. So it's like you go over there. Well, it's like you're looking at somebody and you're literally telling them, hey, oh, don't touch that while I go over here and touch that.
They're building their bunkers not for a cataclysmic event. They're building their bunkers because someday everybody's going to know what we're talking about, and we're going to come for them just like they came for the royals back in the day. And I promise you that's what they're doing.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious that in their behavior that is on their minds.
I do think that they fear the cataclysmic event. I genuinely do believe that, because the seed banks would not exist, and in places where, why would you put them in Siberia? Why would you put them in a place where no one can access them? Why would you collect all of this DNA? Not just knowing, who you're related to, but actual hard DNA and storing them. When you submit your 23andMe thing, they store your spit for 10 years. At least that's what you sign away. Why are you storing it? Why throw it away? Because you also need a seed bank of human genomic DNA. You also are creating genomic DNA of all the planets. It's the revolutionized Noah's Ark. You're also creating all kinds of, just destructions of grand scale to kind of pass the blame and like look over there but don't look over here, and I believe they think that they're going to survive this, and that they just need the variability of seeds, human genome, and whatever to restart the population. I genuinely do believe that. That's
they
my
need Mormons too. They need Mormons too. That's what they need to restart the population.
The Mormons, the Mormons were completely involved at the beginning of, all of this with Hughes Company, where they hid underneath to start implementing all this DNA and genealogy stuff at the war times, which is why they were buddies with old Mustache Boy himself. I mean, and IBM's involved in this, which is why is Bill Gates friends to the Mormons? Because his mother sat on the board of IBM. So when you look back at these families and who their families are, that answers a lot of questions, so.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
Mormonism is also the decode for all of the 20th century kind of mythology that goes into Freemasons and everything else. So after the reset, this is the ancient memories that you're going to have, is all of the stuff in Mormonism.
Mormonism.
They're the most unknowing magicians ever, right? The top of the top have all the knowledge, and they hand it down to the important families. This is why they live. Where do the important families live? Oh, Mount Olympus. That's right, Mount Olympus, the subdivision. They don't really hide it. Just people don't like to talk about it.
Right.
So
Right.
if you have a natural chance to restart over, you want to end up and eliminate all these podcasters like Occult Rejects that are talking nonsense to people, right? You want to eliminate all of these people. So you want a new society that you can fully control. They don't need as many of us. They don't need us as smart as we are. They don't need us as wealthy as you are. They want to control all of that parts of the society. So they are building this just to take the chance that maybe, just maybe, things really go to the worst side. They can actually start over again with a new plan, with a new blood, with a new head on the top. And I think that's what they're trying. And in the end, what will happen is we'll have a chasmed society where there are people on one side that decide to live in freedom and normally, and this that will end this 1944 world where everything is controlled from birth to schools, or to who lives, who is cured, who's not. They want to decide all of that thing. So it will be a closed wall in every city that will start around those very bunkers that they are building.
Are you describing Christianity?
More or less.
All right. Well, that was the last reset, right? They got rid of all the old knowledge, and then they boosted up this one group that took over everybody else. I mean,
Sure.
it's the same pattern.
Well,
Yeah, but
when it comes
you go to Asia and say, "Oh, this doesn't work there. Let's have Buddhism there. Buddhism works, and have many variants, and then it works. Let's go to Arab world. Oh, this doesn't work. Let's create Islamism. This will work here." So it is all the same system. The public
you've
is
had
different, but the spectacle is always the same.
Yeah, you've had your icons in the past. You've had your icons in the past that really do good work, and they're not religious people; they're spiritual people. Every religion I've ever seen, every country I've ever seen, every organization I've ever seen, eventually gets hijacked. You know what I mean? It might start out good. It's not going to stay there.
Look,
Just
if you
saying.
have one philosophy or one religion that tells you this is better than the others, this is the only one that is true, is already false.
Right. Yes,
Because
exactly. Yes.
we are not
No question.
from a country, we are earthlings. All of
Amen.
these lines, all these imaginary lines that they call borders, they don't exist. They're just there to separate. You need us separated. And then inside the country, they separate us again by sports, by politics, by religion. And everyone is separated in small, manageable groups that we can infiltrate and change the mind and do this and do that and control society from there. Many nets for many types of minds.
They blow smoke up people's asses, bro. They tell you you're the best. And then anytime, they pump the ego so high. Anytime a group of people thinks they're better than the rest of us, shit goes haywire, bro, every time.
Well, it's a type of international tribalism. Like, you see tribal rivalries, and they usually end up complementing each other in the end. But when you've got an entire religion and everything based off of tribalism, it doesn't go well, because obviously you can't find balance if that's the type of mentality that everybody's supposed to share. So it's a different way of seeing the world, because you're imposing tribalism on the planet.
Yep.
And then expecting different results. It's hard to get around.
Yeah, and a lot of times the problem is people don't read their own book. They're going to preach it, but they're not even actually reading it.
Well, that's one of the
I go to
benefits.
church and I ask the pastor, "Hey, have you ever heard of the terrible crystal?" And I get the old, "Sir, we're going to have to ask you to leave." That's what I get.
Look, we are in a time.
No stones. We talked about this, right, Headless? No more stones. They don't allow it. Yep.
We are living in a time that it's not the knowledge that matters, but opinions. People don't need to know a subject in order to defend it. They just need to have a hero. and they just stick to that. So it's not different from any religion, and science has become that. So people defend things without knowing what they are. They just don't know.
Exactly.
So
It's part of the human. It's part of the human condition. You guys talk all the time about a dichotomy or a paradox. Okay, that problem comes with free speech. Okay, I get to say anything I want. I can literally pull my opinion straight out of my ass or pull it out of thin air, having done zero homework. I still get to say what I want to say. I'm afforded an opinion, having done zero homework. That comes with free speech, bro. It's a horrible paradox.
No, it isn't, because it's up to every single one to decide on their mind if they agree or don't with what you're saying. So you're completely free. All ideas matter, no matter how ridiculous they are, because even if they only exist to tell us what not to believe or what not to follow. So we need to know what's not to understand what is. Without that, we don't have the balance. We just have an incomplete opinion. It's like a scientist on a lab that he has part of a project, but he only looks to that molecule. He doesn't understand what's going on the project. He doesn't know what they're doing, and they might even doing a deadly virus. He doesn't know because he only has a small part of the project. If you go study a site, you take a scientist that only understands one side of the story, and he doesn't connect to the others to understand the other sides of the story to then make the whole story or attempt to. Right?
They don't.
Sometimes
they're too ego-driven to consider another option or somebody else's opinion. And that consensus thought in the group think gets thrown in there too. You're correct. I mean, I agree with you 100%.
When did we? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say this paradox is perfectly framed by Parmenides, where he breaks the world into two parts. He's like the world that is, and then the world of opinion. And so he puts all these different categories in these different boxes, and he says all that you can talk about is the world that is. And so he was one of the first people to develop formal logic just in his sort of journey into the night, as he called it, or this palace of the night. And then we get the paradox, Zeno's paradox, where he talks about if you're shooting an arrow at a target, it has to go halfway and then halfway again, and it never reaches the target. This is why we call it the universe, is because it's all one thing. And that perspective on everything has just been lost, you know?
When did we see, to the specializing point, when did we see medicine, modern medicine will say, okay, doctors start failing miserably at actually helping people, minus the things we're putting in bodies, okay? It was when they all specialized out. I watched it as a nurse happen because nobody talked to anyone else and nobody put the symptoms together. So you can only diagnose your tiny little micro world. And this did not help anyone. And then it's gone further into society, period.
Good for you. You were paying attention. You were watching it as it happened, unfolded in slow-mo or fast motion, whatever. We lost track of time. Just kidding.
Perfect corporate siloing. It's everywhere.
Which has now invaded the veterinary medicine industry. By the way.
Yeah, it's pretty much institutional problems. The group thing, you know. When it was in college classes, a lot of the college kids would get on one topic, they would overhear each other and then jump on board with the consensus. I'm over in the corner thinking they got this portion covered. Let me think about something else. And I'm like the only one in the class that throws up a different idea or an opinion. The teachers sometimes saved my ass. Sometimes they hung me out to dry, you know, because what good is it? The whole class is just thinking in one direction. I'll be brave enough to you might want to look at this. What about this? But
that makes you dangerous. That makes you dangerous. And that's the whole point, right? Because you saw through the bull.
We just came up with a really good corporate strategy on how to improve communications within their network. It's just like you got the trivium, you got these different methods of learning and communicating. Why can't we just introduce that into corporate culture, and then you've got a consulting firm right there?
You people are something else. I love it. It's incredible. I'm glad you guys are here today. I appreciate it.
Oh,
It's I like how you illustrated your contrasting the ideas that were at hand, Don. And I think that's a really powerful thing that with monotheism, we're stuck not doing, right? Because the monolithic, monothematic tone is set. And so even when we try to do something good, we call it a war in our
That happened
culture.
during that happened during COVID. They acted like it was all brand new. They didn't understand it. And I didn't understand why the layman, I don't care if it's a 12-year-old kid. I don't care who it is. How come everybody, if it's such a big deal, how come everybody wasn't working on the problem? Because I know I did. And here's the thing, I saw all these people leaving it up to the so-called experts. And what they're messing around with, let me touch on this real quick. What they're messing around with is a thing called adaptive genetics, enzymatic genetic editing, okay? And that comes from understanding adaptive genetic species. When you have what used to be a lake that dried out, but the pace of that change was such that most animals got up on their legs and took off, found another place to live. Some of them died out, and the ones that survived and stayed there had to adapt. They went past breaking their food down, past like branched chain amino acids straight down to base pair DNA, usually insects that store your DNA in their shells and use it to build themselves. That's where that comes from. And it's ancient. The Egyptians did it. You know what? When I found that symbol, when I found the biological symbol for NAND, meaning not this and that, I knew I would find it, and I knew where I would find it. And it took me less than 10 minutes to find it. Because they steal everything. Nothing, listen, everything they do is stolen. Every freaking thing. They act like they're smart, they're geniuses. It's all stolen technology. It's all tucked in a drawer and then doled out to you later. Or they come running out and tell you it's brand new. Oh my God, dude. There's nothing new under the sun. I believe I heard Nick say that once upon a time.
Philo Farnsworth, after he discovered the TV, or after he created the TV, what did he do for the rest of his life? He worked for all these secret programs.
He was a Mormon.
He was a Mormon.
You guys are going down the TV route. Oh my God. I love it. I mean, we could talk for days, man. I don't know. Oh my God. I could talk about water with Headless, and I could talk about water. I caught your water bit. I loved it, man. Oh, dude, you're letting me have it right through the screen, and I was soaking up every bit of it. You and I can talk about water for 10 days, bro. Easy.
what was it? What was it on that episode that got you going? One of the specific things that got you thinking.
It was just Nick and Headless on one of the.
Yeah, it's an old one. That's an old one, to tell you the truth. Even though it doesn't seem like it, that's 2 years old.
That's okay. I'm digging back a couple. I've been digging back a couple years where you guys laid down some incredible work. I was blown away.
Yeah, but you didn't have money to pay us. That's why we weren't here.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I'm saying you didn't have money to pay us back then.
I had a species for you, Don.
No, I've been hiding because I've been treated like shit. Had my ass beat. I've been tortured. I've been shot at 5 times. I've been. I'm lucky to even think I'm here for any reason at all. They tried to rip my ears off my. They tried to rip my ears off my head. They twisted the metatarsal bones in my toes. They're non-invasive forms of torture for knowing 19 years before LA is going to burn up and Lahaina is going to burn up, how it's going to happen. So I contacted these people. I said, if you're going to scrub the sky, I understand the salt, but what's with all the metal content? I said, what are you going to do? Chase me with a plasma tornado? I'm at Starbucks doing my homework. I look up, I got 9 suits with guns standing in front of me. They don't even know what to say because they're not even able to have the conversation. I'm not even allowed to go have a cigarette without having one of these jerk-offs follow me. And he just sits there like this while I'm having a cigarette. He didn't know what to say. He's just like, what are we going to do with this motherfucker? I've been through this shit for years.
Related to your post? No, you don't do posts. You don't do social media. So where did I listen to you? You contact them
talked to 'em.
directly?
I talked to them through the search engine, right through the keyword search. I talked to them through that. They monitor everything.
Right, but you're talking to whom? To the ones that send
Anybody,
the army?
anybody, and everybody who's online looking at the keywords, man. I'm talking. It's all getting sorted out by the NSA. I'm talking to anybody who's willing to have the conversation. Anybody.
And what
They
platforms do
knew.
you use?
It's interesting.
Just get on Google and type crazy shit in the search bar. You don't think they're going to come ask you, look at you sideways, bro? Come on, man. They look at everything. They're monitoring keyword searches, so it's the best way to contact them.
I saw a post about the most commonly flagged NSA keywords, and it just gave you a list of like all these like 180 words or whatever that are most looked at by the NSA. I wouldn't be surprised if you could get somebody's attention through that kind of method.
Oh, bro, the way I talk, are you kidding me? I'd let them have it. I don't spare anybody, bro. Nobody. I don't care who you are. Donald Trump's not ready for the conversation. Fauci's not ready for the conversation. I'm looking for somebody. I finally found somebody ready for the conversation. I'm talking to him right now. So I don't know what to say. It's been a very lonely place to be.
It sounds like it. So you were talking about having some experiences that.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Thank you.
Right.
It's like we ain't let him go on that one.
Yeah, you're talking about some experiences that you could tell us over instead of the mailbag.
Yeah, I did say that. I did.
Yeah,
I did.
He's like, oh, I forgot.
And so you're talking about more along the lines of the spiritual side of the science, so to speak.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, just by, you study technology, you learn a couple things. You know what? I did a lot of work between 1935 and 1955, reading papers, science papers, when science was really wild in this country. They're doing great work, but they wrote their papers differently. When they didn't understand something, they're looking at something, they're speaking in the paper, and they're like, it looks like it came out of fucking nowhere. And I'm sitting there reading it and going like, it doesn't fucking did. We're talking about crystallization and everything. The way they spoke in the papers is so entertaining, it's beyond comprehension. It's wonderful to read. They were doing good work back in the day. There are things that got covered up with big words that they were looking at that aren't necessarily definable in scientific terms. And so they put it in the right terms back in the day. It got all changed around, I guess. Don't really speak on it. And so I looked at it, I look at the phone and technology. What surprises me, we have all these people running around with these phones, and nobody knows how it works. You're talking on the phone. The dude's, you got a friend in California. I'm in Michigan. I'm talking to a guy in California. It sounds like he's right fucking next to me. I mean, there might be a slight delay. Well, ask yourself, how the fuck does that work? Somebody, ask yourself, how does that work? I already know how it works, but it is the magical portions of what you think is science.
Yeah.
And so we can describe it in fundamental terms, and we can tell ourselves, about electron flow and pumping something in one end of the pipeline and having it drop out the other, but it's really just entanglement. And they're not going to want to talk to you about that.
That seems really common, especially now that we're moving into this quantum computing. Like, there's a lot of empty promises and a lot of holes in what they're talking about. And if people had a more fundamental understanding of what they're using instead of the mathematics that we're using on top of it, I think it would help a lot.
Okay, so we can get into where you asked me to go by letting me cover this. So I watched Gordy Rose, developer of D-Wave quantum computers. I wrote him a letter too. Actually, I talked to him right through the fucking goddamn search engine too. I told him he's selling computers for $20 million. He didn't get enough money because he just sold his own daughter's future right out from under her feet because he doesn't understand quantum and he has no idea what he's touching. I said, I can tell by the part in your hair that you should be working for the Matt Millen management team, who drove the Detroit Lions into the ground. Sometimes I'm looking for the conversation. I got to hit him with shock value. And so that brings me to, he's up on stage talking about, oh, we got this crazy computer and we're quantum tunneling and we're drawing in resources from 500 other dimensions. I'm like, really? Okay. Oh, that doesn't sound strange to the TED Talk crowd. They think, oh, you're magnificent. I go, what the fuck did you just say? I go, I heard what you said. These people don't really hear what you say. There's something wrong with the people in the crowd because that sounds crazy. How come the psychiatrist doesn't walk up, the cops come? How come there's no healthcare check being done on this motherfucker? You get what I'm saying? If I say it, oh, it's a problem. If he says it, nobody says, sit down for a minute. What did you just say? How about explain yourself? Because that sounds insane. When you go to the biblical aspect, it's called chasm. It was placed there and named by God himself for your protection. The front side and the back side of the Higgs field. They know the energies that form and the whole entire part of the Higgs field. And it's just basically, they knew what they were looking for. When they built that machine, they knew what they were looking for because they're looking at the old book and they're saying, is this a real thing? So the fuckers up there, the motherfuckers up there.
M theory is just Kabbalism. Like that's all they did is they took Kabbalism and they put it into M theory. So you're right on that.
It's in the hieroglyphs. Hittite. Hittite. It's right in front of your face. They hid those ones, I think, on you guys.
Where do you think that will lead us?
I gotta wonder if you always want to have hope. You know what I mean? Part of this, you gotta wonder if it's inevitable. If we're not just living an echo of the past. So when you hear Graham Hancock and you hear Papadopoulos on Ancient Aliens and Childress, and you hear these people speak, the one thing you always hear them say is, we don't know who built it, and we don't know where they went. And I'm like, it's like, okay, whatever, man. Does that matter? We're headed down the same road. You're going to be the ones, they're going to be talking about, if anybody survives this people's dumb shit, they're going to be like, we don't know who built this, and we don't know where they went. But they're going to be talking about you.
Well, you need to understand that they don't have the capability to actually do the research to find who built them. That's archaeological work, historical work. That's not researcher, alternative researcher or writer's work. So all they can say, it's the truth, that is, they don't know who built it. They say they do, but those that lived there told them this was already here. So
yes, sir.
So
yes, sir.
There's not much more than they can say. What I can tell you is, when they are now building this quantum computers, they are using crystalline matrix to produce this. And when you look to an ancient megalithic monument, each centimeter of these highly quartz content stones, normally granites, have trillions of quartzolite structures in 1 cubic centimeter. Right? So each one of these structures, once could be exactly what they are trying to reproduce, but they don't know how to use this, or it's too public for them to actually go there and start doing a ritual and actually activating. People will notice something is going on here, right? So they have to do it in lab, and in lab, they're taking quite a long time to actually reproduce something that has to be built that big on an energy node and follows certain aspects of the law, and they are trying to cut all of that aspect and go directly to the quantum. So they are swimming in a sea that they don't really understand, and they are getting results that they are not really prepared for, but they are still following through because the funding that is forcing them to do it, because there's some people that have interest in actually breaking the what they call the brain between dimensions. So these things calculate at least 11 branes. Sorry, it's the name. Branes that are the division between the dimensions in this quantum hypothesis. And
To your point, of
Go on.
saying that you can't have some magical people go do that in a granite building because they would notice. Well, the Mormons don't notice at all because they're quartz monzonite, or AKA granite temples. They do it all the time, multiple times a day, all day long.
Sure, but not on these historical sites. That's what I was saying. But all the
They do
religions
have them
built
on
their
ley
own.
lines. Their
Sure,
ley
of
lines are
course.
very interesting. I think
Of
there's
course.
a lot to be said there. Yeah.
Ricardo, I think you're right in that these historical buildings, and I think what Heidi's saying is also right in that this is why you have a lot of Mormons into Mesoamerica, because
Yeah.
all of those exactly how you described those ancient
Sure.
archaeological.
Yep. In simple terms, your ley line theory lends itself to the lattice theory when it comes to physics and all the other stuff. All the crystal, everything. Crystalline lattice, the lattice concept. It
Look,
fits, and therefore
I
it
have-
should be real. It should be real if it fits. It looks like tit for tat to me.
Sure, but I should say that I'm not fully convinced that every single Mormon, at least in the high position, is an evil person.
Oh yeah.
So I think there's some, at least, that do good work, taking advantage of the infrastructure that they have, right?
There's always truth with a lie. I mean, they
Sure.
have to have the porch masons or they wouldn't exist for sure.
Sure.
100%.
I don't have much problem with the Mormon Old Testament, and it wasn't about this place. That happened over with the rest of the old world. I really don't mess around with the New Testament when it comes to Mormon. But I really don't have a problem with a couple of things that were said, by Nephi, Moroni. But I'm looking at it from scientific terms, so
I think what we see with Mormonism is sort of like what was sort of expected to be the new world religion, and I
it's
think
got hijacked.
Well, I mean, they knew it was coming.
CIA.
I think people like Joseph Smith were trying to create this as sort of like a favor to the rest of the world's elite so they could be sort of included in the club. And so all of that line going out there had a lot to do with these bloodlines and a lot of, because I mean, you could just track the history of a lot of these characters and you could see they directly go back to old European families.
Oh, they all do. Yeah, you can look at the
Right.
boats that they were coming over. There was fucking swarms of boats coming from Liverpool.
Royal families too, and they hid their royals. And when I bring up royal Mormon bloodlines, if you want to be attacked on any ever on anywhere and just get like the full anger of everyone at you all at once, just say that.
Sure.
It's bad.
But would you
Don't
say that
forget-
the warring faction is just one of many warring factions?
Yeah.
And that they're fighting turf? That you do, I mean, you still have some of these ancient families in Europe. You have still some of these ancient families in Arabia. Oh my goodness.
I
the Middle
think that was what was
And-
occurring is, yeah, they were fighting, but now they're not anymore. I don't think so. I think they got bought out. Yeah, and they all play together now, right? It's like everybody says the one world order's coming. It's here.
Oh, yeah.
Like Hegel described this the best. And I think to your point, Lisa, like they all know who they are with these blood tests and these DNA tests and all this stuff. They did it for a reason. And
So they got
that
the sites.
100%, Lisa, I have to back that.
The funny thing is everyone has his line starting in Africa because they forgot to adapt to the new historical origin point. So, but the tests are still going to Africa. That to me, it just shows how random they are. They just go around Europe and then they finished in Africa. Here's your DNA record. Here it is. And people are all pleased to find out, oh, I'm descendant of this. It's an improvement from everyone being Cleopatra. It's an improvement. but it's still not there. I think it's and Rupert Sheldrake, when he spoke about DNA and this testing, he warned people that this could not be determined. So what they're telling people is half possible and half completely fabricated by model, because they cannot say what they're saying to people. The sample that people give just doesn't give that kind of data, nor these labs are equipped to extract as many material as they need to get to those conclusions. So whatever this was a massive operation to collect DNA from the entire globe, and they
Look at the
financed
testing.
it, they promoted it.
Look at the
Without
testing during
understanding-
COVID. They would take
Without
swabs of like
understanding
fruit.
fully. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, they
Sorry.
would
I
take
can't see you
swabs
guys,
of
remember.
fruit, and then they would hold that up as being sort of evidence that they don't know what they're doing with this testing. I think it's like that all the way through.
Yeah.
Well, their testing methods are flawed. Doesn't matter. They're not perfect.
Yeah, but they
It's like
can
they're-
use this sample. Look, if you have this database of DNA from the human population, let's figure out that they have what, 3%, 5% of the population from this test, maybe less. So what they are learning is, what can we build that kills these people? We have their DNA, right? Let's see what they are. What works.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let me touch on that for a second, please. Because from what I understand, from the origin of all of this as a package that's going to be useful to anybody, is that you have to map each person's DNA and make a custom vaccine for each person, no matter what. And if you're going to pass it out like aspirin, you're going to end up with immune problems or worse down the line. So, yeah, they attack people by handing it out like aspirin. They gave them a generic enzymatic garbage disposal, for your DNA.
Two things. There's been, I looked it up really quickly to see if I could find that number, and just a quick search. But there's, remember when there was a human genome project, back with the Department of Energy, and they funded all this stuff to map out the human genome. Now there is a pangenomic to collect or map out the entirety of all of the human genome globally. So that is a project that is actively participating, or going on, or what have you. But what you're saying about, like, in terms of doing, like, creating a specific vaccine or for an individualized person, I believe that was one of the things that was swept under the rug with the Ukraine skirmish. In that there was actual laboratories there where experiments were being done on individualistic genomes of the Slavic or the Eastern European genetics. And so I'm thinking it's just one of many. I think there's certain laboratories set up around the world looking at specific ethnic groups and doing it that way.
Yeah, you are the Fauci called you. I'm a white variant. I know that much.
I think
Bad
that they
joke.
are, using exactly what you said, Lisa, to their disposal to create stagnation in specific groups with production of
but I
people.
will say with the virus, and I know people don't believe in viruses, and that's fine. With the specific virus that was generated for the pandemic, as well as its accompanying, jab, there was a specific haploid group that was left out. And so there is a specific ethnicity that was never affected by this virus. That was,
and I watched this as a nurse,
so
actually happening in real time. I watched certain people drop like flies or just have a sniffle, and it was very weird.
Yeah, they didn't want anybody to see that, did they?
Well,
I saw too much of it myself. So
I wanted to point out that Dick Cheney promised in 2003 that the next global crisis would be race-specific bioweapons, and then they just sort of forgot about it from there. So
it's here.
Me,
Yeah.
can I
That's
share you? Can I share a screen very quickly just to
Yeah,
show
sure.
one thing? Sure, can I?
Yes. As long as you know how
By all
to
means.
happen. What do you got here, Boris Ricardo? Oh, look at that.
Where is it? Oh, here it is. So this is the most important paper to me that came out after COVID. Okay. And it's a paper that was erased everywhere, and I finally found it again. And the SiteSync has it, the very lab that did it has it again. But it had a second paper that somewhat occulted all the things that this paper have. And so, just for you to have an idea, so this is 40% magnification of blood, right? So this is, on the left, you have the blood of a normal person. On the right, you have the blood after vaccination. Now let's go deeper and see what's in the blood. You see these nanofibers? You see this? You see the difference between a healthy blood and a vaccinated blood? Look at this.
Yep, I've looked at all that material. You're 100% looking right in the right place. I know that much.
So this is all nanoparticles that were found in a group of people tested from all the vaccines, not just one variant, all of them. The results were identical for all of them. And this is the result. This is what people are having in their blood system. This is what reacts to magnetic fields. This is what creates the coagules. This is what creating the myocarditis. This is what is doing all of that. It's accelerating. Let me stop the share. This is accelerating every single type of disease that people might have in 10, 20 years, or even recover from it and never suffer from it. It's accelerating every single problem that people would have in the future and creating new ones. Right. So what I'm seeing is there were a lot of saline solutions because there's a lot of people that were vaccinated and didn't have any kind of effects. Either the immune system was able to deal with these nanoparticles, or whatever is in this, and REN and all of that, or some of the vaccines were just a saline solution that had nothing in it. It's like a lottery. So basically, it's like a game.
I think
For
it was
those
a
that
zip
could-
code, color coded lottery. I think, in my
More than
my
likely,
opinion.
they had to use saline. They counted on this so-called participation in this COVID program to continually get shots, and they would have got everybody eventually. They can't hurt everybody at once. I mean, I'm just saying, a little bit too noticeable. They went a little too far, and people noticed. Not enough saline, I guess. I don't.
Well, I live in a country where we have 96% of the population, including children, vaccinated. That's how strong the program was.
Whew.
And so what
Yeah,
we
you know
have
what?
now is only the immigrants that were not vaccinated are having children.
No, I get it.
The,
Totally
the birth
understand that
rate
one.
from
Listen.
the natural population is...
You understand that you guys, your knowledge base with your group of people that you know is so intensely amazing. They have to get rid of everybody who knows how this shit works so they can do all this shit all over again. Not kidding you. They want.
Yeah, but they're expecting nature to do that also.
Oh, no, they're
You guys
expecting
also
to make it. They're expecting you to not notice what they did and accept the narrative that it was a natural thing that happened. Same thing. I'm saying the same thing you are. We're speaking the same language. Yeah. Yep.
And there's nothing new under the sun for the Great White Brotherhood either. That's what I'm gonna say.
I think there's good and bad everywhere you look, probably in every house. It's never all, it's never everyone. There's good people in the world.
Well, let me put this in a very controversial way. You are not allowed to go against the system in terms of what we're talking here, but you are allowed to be of one race and say from one moment to the other, I now identify to being of that race. And so I want the same benefits or problems that that race has. And that to me is not going over the freedom of expression, but it's going over the limit of logic and welfare in emotion and mental state, because that's refusing your body completely, right?
I think
So
we're gonna.
if you,
I'm sorry. Does it go cultural? Cultural is a massive piece. That has to be right. Everybody's gonna lose their culture, not just me. Not
yeah,
that I have one. Skaters.
but they increase the borders and they decrease the culture. And that's the problem, because we are becoming more and more the same, while our differences in terms of who we are and what we can do are getting different and different. So, and that's weird, because what they should be doing in a globalization is take the best of each place and make it a better place for everyone, right? Not bringing the problems of one place and implementing on the other place so that it has the same problems, and that's what they do. So it's obviously a plan. It's obviously not done for our benefit, but for theirs. And what is their benefit? That's the question.
Well, I watched Fauci on TV on a rare interview off to the side, and he said, "We've gotten so good at axiology." I go, "Wait a minute, we've gotten so good at axiology, we have shit to worry about." Meaning they've gathered enough people of the like mindset to get away with this shit. They have enough pile of people that are on board with this shit. When you study axiology, you read it in the beginning, it sounds wonderful. It sounds like Shangri-La. Sounds great until you get down toward the end of the definition or the idea or theology of axiology. And when they start talking about what artwork should be appreciated, it just sounds like straight Nazi talk. It really does.
Let me tell you this. I am now working on a project for the in retaliation for the NACPRA program, right? So, and there's a lot of opinions, and even within my group, there's people that don't agree with me because they think that my position is too soft in order to resolve the problem. However, my concern in this problem is not the bodies that I think they do have the right to claim whenever they want, is the culture. So you have now forcefully and above the law the pictures of Indians, books that talk about Indians, anything related to it, any artifact that it's not sacred but it's imbued with sacredness is being removed from public. So what is happening is the America, and I'm saying this as a Portuguese, as an European. So what I saw is the America had a long process to create some kind of living between the natives and the Americans, right? And it took time for them to start mingling with one another and accept one another and live with one another. What they are doing now is, in 2 or 3 generations, if this is not stopped, that chasm that exists between the Americans and the natives is going to grow beyond what it was, because the children would not know what is an Indian, because they are keeping these people on their reservations. They are taking any kind of information that we can read or see or watch or learn from them, from universities, from schools, from scholar curriculums. They are going to make the people don't know who they are. And then the next step is to force them then more back, because they are not part of the society. And then more. And how long until we have Gaza walls in the Americas closing these indigenous areas? How long?
Very soon.
Right?
They tried it. They've tried it. We've got a massive infiltration of the United Nations in this country. People don't have any idea. I watched a lot of it, the influx of it. We're not talking about your open border problem you had. We're talking about the first invasion that happened right at the end of Obama's last term. They flew as many planes as they could, bro. Where I was living, people popped up everywhere from all over the world. They're trying to figure out how to use their phones. They gave them cars. They're crashing into everything, trying to figure out how to drive. They gave them jobs, housing, and they gave them to blend in. It's crazy. I used to talk to them. I'm the only one in the whole city. I know where I go. I know what's going on. I used to talk to them. My stories about when that happened are insane. They've been watching Americans wonder what the hell's going on around here. I go, crazy. And so they tried to implement part of the policies of Agenda 21, they literally were talking about building walls and separating neighborhoods just in California alone.
Oh, I have
And
the
that's-
maps. I do have the maps that they created.
And that's called the public-private partnership that they tried to push as
Look,
part of that.
it's
the whole thing.
it's exactly as you see, because if you have actually had the patience to read the 700 pages or whatever it was, the Agenda 21 and then the Agenda 23, it looks like a wonderful thing. It looks so well intended. The problem is those small parts of the text where it says kill everyone.
Yep.
That's
Exactly.
the only problem of the text, right? Because apart from that,
Exactly.
it seems that everything that they're doing is great. It looks good on paper. It seems that it's for the best of the community. Until that little part that says you have to eliminate X part of the population, or you have to introduce these elements and chemicals to create a natural selection among the population. So, but no one reads this stuff because not only it's enormous, it's very expensive. I don't know if Agenda 53 is sold for free now, but Agenda 21, I remember it was 700 and so euros back then, and I'm talking about all of those years again. It was impossible to acquire and read. Everyone talked about it, but no one knows what it was inside the agenda, right?
we had it readily available here at Barnes & Noble for like no money. It also came with the Cliff Notes version, Agenda 21 for Dummies, right at the store, but nobody's looking at it, bro. Nobody's looking at it. We got a problem here in America where people don't think, oh, it's not going to happen to me. And they think, a lot of people think, why do I care? It's not affecting me. And the thing is, headed towards you. You could tell some Americans there's a train coming. And they're like, they don't even want to look. They think you're tricking them so that you're going to rob them or some shit. It's a problem in this country.
Yeah, that's not America, because if you tell people, look, don't put the pesticides on the culture because you're killing the bees. Oh, it's just a lousy insect. I care nothing for the bees. Yeah, but if you don't have the bees, you don't have the corn because you need them to pollinize. And for that to happen, no, rubbish, kill all the bees, because they just don't accept it. It just doesn't matter. There are a lot of bees. They will reproduce no matter how. And there are places that have 80% reduction on bees. So on the verge of losing pollination. It's like the net zero on CO2. Let's put net zero. Let's kill all the trees. Why do we need the fucking trees? We don't need the trees.
Okay.
Let's get what they eat.
Yeah. So listen to this dude, Bill Gates talking about carbon capture, CO2 capture, bro. And I got busy sending crazy comments to a lot of key players, man, because I'm tired of this shit. I'm the asshole in the background that's fucking making them think, and they're becoming aware that people know this. But so let's capture all CO2. Maybe we can get these fires to burn hotter. That's the comment I throw at them. They don't.
I wanted to point out real quick that we talk about their system, but we don't talk about their spiritual core. And I believe this is at the spiritual core of this group of people that we keep talking about. This is the UN meditation room. And in this sort of space right here, you can kind of tell you've got that black cube being the central identifier. And that's supposed to be this table of sacrifice. And the way that the walls are kind of lit, it seems like they're opening some kind of a dimensional gateway with it.
There's a false door at the end.
Well, if you look at that that painting, I think we have a closer version, but there's a scythe right in the middle of it, right? You can kind of see it hooked off to the side right there. And that scythe really does represent death. And they're showing you exactly what they believe in. They believe in this all-consuming sort of death that they want to have happen on the altar of the world. And this is their spiritual core. This is what all of these theosophists and all of the theosophy offshoots all came together and agreed that this was going to be their symbol.
Our altars are prettier, but it sure looks the same.
So they didn't saw the fifth element, I presume. Because those that support that death thing end well too, and badly, sorry, too. So it's something that I never understood. Either in films, in books, that thing that the guy that wants to destroy everything, it doesn't make any sense. Because if you destroy everything, what are you doing? You're going to be alone in the universe for the rest of eternity? It just doesn't make any sense. What I think it represents, it's a strongly eugenic movement. That I think what it represents. But in terms of sacrificial, as in here, I think that death is the representation of initiation. That all initiation starts with that going into darkness, simulation of death, and the rebirth through the water into the light. So, and I think that's what is represented here. I hope.
I think what we're looking at is each one of these like sacred places to these different eras are representational of those eras. So you've also got a lot of that corporate artwork going on in this sort of abstract figure, and it's really one of the times when they just decide that, hey, we're going to make all of our corporate artwork this sort of globo homo style. And from this point onwards, that's sort of the representation you see repeated in all of their bland, banal, sort of shapeless, what is that sort of figure? And you could see it all throughout, corporate artwork. That's what they call it, the corporate art style. And it's just all based off of the colors and kind of the vagueness that you see at this place. And this is really the birth of that art movement.
And I'm very, very intrigued by the light effect, purpose light effect on the stone itself, that has no light on the sides, only on the top. That is completely intentional.
Yep.
And you see even the light. You see from the ceiling, the light is pointed to the author,
right?
And doesn't illuminate anything else but the top.
The bottom looks like a door to the beneath. I mean,
yeah,
as above, so below.
Exactly.
So this would be a real good place for me to jump in because I study light. I've been an optics guy since I was 17 years old, and I look at this thing the same way. I'm not can't even see what you're showing, but I already know what you're looking at. So this is how I get pictures of the spiritual, things. So what I do to get these pictures, because I told Nick I would share that with you guys. So I've lived in a couple places where they're dusting us down so heavy with these photophoretic, paramagnetic, polymorphic, radioactive, metallic salts. I've been living in places where these are coming down so freaking heavy. They're up in the air, quite a bit during the day due to the photophoretic portions of the build. When it cools down, they sink at night. I've stood at night out at 3 a.m. because this is what I have to do. I have to go out at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I do daytime stuff too, but check it out. I'll go out at 3 o'clock in the morning. You can feel the radiation in the air. I find a spot in the neighborhood with the right type of lighting. I've got LEDs emitting radio waves. I've got a radioactive haze I'm standing in. I turn the flash off my camera. I know due to the ambient lighting and the amount of darkness that's around me, and I'm the distance from the type of lighting there is, it's a combination of just knowing how it looks. I literally can take pictures, and I literally have it looking back at me all day. I got thousands of pictures. I got motion pictures of standing out in front of people's houses. I'll have one house lit up with Christmas lights. Nobody else did the Christmas thing, so I got a great thing. I'm on a dark street. Adjacent to that is it'd be a nice bright street, so I got a little bit different lighting come in. Once you find it, and once you see it, and once you understand that it's there, I do it all the time. I get picture after picture after picture. When I show these pictures to people, the reactions are priceless. They're amazing. Oh my God, some people just say, after about showing them like 40 of these things, they go, their heart can't take it. They're looking at it, they see it, they know it. I taught one dude how to take the picture. He got it the first time because We're riding through town. And I go, wait a minute. I go, stop. I go, check it out. Let's get out. I go, this is perfect spot, man. Go take a picture. Just take a picture. And sure enough, man, we found it first time. He's like, what the fuck? He's like, holy shit. I go, okay, gotta go. I do it all the time, bro. I got on this tablet right here, I got hundreds, I got 1,000 motion pictures of the spiritual side, between the radiation I'm standing in and the energy being put into my atmosphere from light bulbs like LEDs. Vapor lamps are cool. You got halides, you got incandescents, you got the whole gamut. You know, if you know what you're doing. When I first found it,
can you show some of the
go ahead.
pictures? You got your tablet. We could see it. If you want to show some of your pictures, that would be great.
Let me explain. No, check this out. I've got two answers. I got a combination answer for you. The answer at the end of the day is going to be yes. I can't show them to you now. I locked myself out of this fucker. But check this out. It has an SD card in it. All my files are duplicated on both the hard drive and the SD card. The SD card I'm with me for data extraction. The tablet's going to Wisconsin, along with another brand new tablet, to a guy who's going to do the data extraction. We're going to do it 2 different ways. It doesn't matter if they can extract it or not. I'm standing in Michigan. They're dusting me down so heavy right now. All I got to do is go out at 3 o'clock in the morning and get some new ones.
Okay.
I'll send you some. No problem. Not a big deal.
Wait.
Excellent. I appreciate that.
I want to know the technique. I want to know the technique too. I'd love to try this over here.
I don't know if Nick had a chance to share with you guys kind of weird thing I do with the mirror image.
No.
I passed on a technique that where I could go out in the daytime, and it's an old Sumerian trick, basically mirror image. And the thing is, if I take a picture of my cell phone with anything natural, and I take a simple mirror image, no Photoshop, just the simple mirror image app, you can move it in, and you'll find hundreds of faces in the stone all day. It's just the character in the stone is insane, and I get it every single time. It's insane. I show pictures. Listen, I'm showing this lady at work, and she goes, "It looks like they're trying to get in here." I go and laugh. Listen, the reactions are priceless, bro. It's amazing. I mean, it's incredible. Everything from people wanting to pass out faint to you got to stop showing me to are you the only one doing this kind of work to literally just describing what they're seeing. And I can tell they see it too because of what they say. So it's just pretty cool. You know, it's pretty wild. That's a simple little trick that the Sumerians do because of the fallout of the radioactive metallic salts that are really sinking low at night when it gets nice and cool. I, on a hunch, went for that. But there's 4 layers deep. I have 4 layers deep of these pictures. I'm looking at shit that some people aren't going to be able to get their fucking head around, bro.
But you are using some kind of combination on a camera? Is a symbol? It's with a phone. Anyone can do it. What's the settings that you use?
And no, anyone can do it. I have some older phones that have a little bit less resolution. It helped a little bit because of the distances that I'm working with. The distance from the light source and the amount of, it depends on I'm dealing with the atmosphere. And so I would say anybody can do it. You can do it with a phone in your hand. Anybody can do it with any phone. You just got to get practice with the tool you have in your hand.
Sure. So what you're saying is, it's not what you're saying. What I'm asking is what you're saying is that when you look at those images with the light bulbs and whatever, you are, because of the decay and the fallout that you are describing of radiation, you are able to the sensor in the camera are able to detect other dimensions that are there, or are the lights producing it? Are the lights only creating the environment where those elements can appear, or are they just there because of the light?
That's an excellent question, and the answer is both of those things that you said are true. And here's the thing that works, because the things that I'm picking up, it's not in the light. You can see it in the light. You can definitely see it related to the light bulb. You can watch this action on top of the light bulbs. But most of the time, I like the ones that are coming out and the energy coming up like LEDs, certain things that land out in the atmosphere in the yard with you are the best ones. The ones that I get when I'm looking down the street, when I understand, the ones I get down the street, you're looking at layers. I pick up things 4 layers deep into this realm. They all have their own expression. They all have, what's 4 layers deep is really hard for people to take because it doesn't really look so nice. If you can get your head around that. The first layer looks really cutesy, looks real cutesy. Second layer deep looks a little more active, more mechanical, more active, like it's busy. Some of it sees you and looks right back at you. Some of it's sitting there and going, you actually probably don't want to be looking at each other when you look at this shit. It doesn't bother me.
But you try to interact with it? Have you ever tried to interact with it?
I don't have to.
No, I'm not saying you have to. I'm asking if you ever tried.
It happens anyway. It happens anyway. I don't know. It's been happening for a long time on different levels, It might be an attention thing. I mean, I don't know. It might be an attention thing. They know sometimes that I'm taking this fucking picture. And sometimes they're just busy. That makes any sense, bro.
Okay. I was just asking if you ever tried to communicate, since you know they're there by the image.
Well, I do. I talk to myself a lot, but if I'm out at 3 in the morning, I could say anything I want. I could talk to them. I could talk to myself. It's all the same. And it's basically, nobody's around. Nobody's awake and around to make a fuss over it. So whether they want me to talk to them or not, sometimes I just say shout out to the faithful ones. I don't know who they are. The ones up front are cute. The guy in the back I'm not talking to. Not yet. I don't care how ridiculous it sounds when I send
No, not at all. Not at all. It's just the way you say things. It's just that it.
I'm a skateboarder, so sorry.
Was there anything else you wanted to, or anybody have any questions at all yet? Right now? All right. Donald, was there anything else? I mean, we've already been going over 2 hours here. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about, or maybe we could just wrap it up if you don't mind?
I just want to say one thing.
If you want to tell us or anything, that's fine.
I'd like to say one thing. I did special hazards fire protection for like 15 years, okay? When I saw the pictures of Santa Rosa, the flyover Santa Rosa, I saw one in Australia too, where they burned out people off the fucking earth. They're burning people off the fucking earth with a goddamn plasma. I took one look at the fucking fire and I said, that's plasma. I don't give a shit what you say. A tuned plasma doesn't see the trees. It goes straight for the metal. You have a lattice. Your house is built with a lattice. You have roofing nails all spread out. You've got sheetrock screws all spread out. You have framing nails all throughout. You have roof trusses. You don't understand the type of lattice, metallic lattice, that would be a fire hazard all by itself, where it normally wouldn't without chemtrails in the fucking air. No shit. Oh, they think they're tricky. It's because people don't understand it, I guess.
Well, you put metal inside of a microwave and you're talking about whatever that metal's in catching fire. So it doesn't take much to ignite that sort of reaction.
These are tuned. These are highly efficient tuned systems, and it takes almost no energy. So a certain amount of energy can cover a wide area. And so that's the primer. That primes that. And we're dealing with accumulation and saturation 25 years of dusted down. So
that's something to think about, of how long that's been going on. Like, what the hell is accumulated up there already? Jeez.
So if you want to know anything about these molecules, there's many, many many family and species of these highly reactive metallic salts, highly prized for their behavior. You can go down the road, I'll give you some avenues to take a look at. You're going to just type in capital letter TCNQ.
Wait, say that again. You're breaking up.
Capital letters TCNQ. Look at that family of metallic salt. Okay, we're talking the modern firework here. Okay, very interesting species, and you can also look at a category called TC NOET. TC lowercase NOET. NOET.
I'm sorry.
You can also look at
breaking up all over. Sorry about that. You broke up all over again. Can you please repeat that?
It's okay. It's okay.
Maybe have him send it and put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Because they keep.
TC, if you can think about it, can you hear me say TTF?
TTF, yes.
Okay, that's tetrathiafulvane. That's a good place to look. Another good place to look is it's just these are acronyms for these metallic salts. So if you got TCNQ, I don't know if you got that.
Yeah. We heard that one. Yes, thank you.
I'm handing these off because Ricardo's sitting right there, bro. You should look. Sound like that would actually be
sure.
Almost any of you would.
I will look into it. I will look into it.
So what you're looking for is you're looking for built-in phase changes in these materials. At 0.01 volts, it does one thing. When it hits 0.04 volts, it might have a dual phase change built into a single molecule. And you're going to see the characteristics of what fits the MO of all the atmospheric shit. The guy orbs that they're filming, the UFO people are seeing shit, the fucking fire people are seeing shit. It fits all of that MO. This shit in the air fits exactly why I can get the pictures I do as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
you're welcome. Yeah. Listen, I'm not here to hide shit. I'm here to hide shit. If you took 10 seconds to look at that, bro, I appreciate you.
No, I will. I will look into it. Thank you. I will.
Yeah, for sure.
I will as well, because I've been looking into a bunch about salts. I've been talking to Nick about different things for Utah. So
yeah, that was right. That is interesting. Yeah. It was interesting to see that stuff with the Utah salt. Something with Utah is the Salt Lake City is that salt. There's nothing else like it in the rest of the world. Completely different.
You can also look at Beshgard salt, called Beshgard salt. BECH. It's BECHGAARD, and you can look at Fabre salts, like the Fabre salts, just like it sounds. FABRE apostrophe. Fabre salts. Good place to look. These are systems built on top of old knowledge, old systems. So I'm giving you some of the higher tech ones right now.
Thank you.
And it's all based on salt. That's crazy, right?
Because they're the most stable. That's why they place elements, kind of like all of your supplements, all of your drugs. They're all in the form of salts because it's going to enter into a very acidic environment in your stomach. So they want to stabilize it. And how much salt they put is where they want it released. So they want it released in your stomach, in your small intestine, your large intestine. But salt is like we talked about at the beginning, it's a great stabilizer, buffer.
But can we say that when we talk about salts, we're talking about very tiny crystals or not?
Salt is a crystal. I mean, I think the way that it forms, regardless if you use it, sodium chloride, magnesium chloride, sulfide, which is a sulfur derivative of the combination of the sulfur ion with the salt derivative. I believe it does form a crystalline type structure, I believe.
All different sizes and shapes. Due to the metallic contents in these salts, the ionic portions and the character that is in the metal itself can affect the crystal shape, size, everything, all of the above.
It's just like why in medicine we are so concerned with, salts and how they enter the bloodstream, i.e., different like IV solutions. It's all based on exactly this. So the carrier.
Saline. So saline is incredibly important. They're chemtrail the skies and people can't tell because what makes a cloud white? It's not refraction. You're going to get the wrong answer. Go talk to the smart people. What makes a cloud white? You'll get the wrong answer every time. Your oceans are so salty, you can't drink the water or you'll die. Okay? Does it take all of the salt up? No, it doesn't. Does it take a tiny bit, enough to make the cloud white? Yes. Water is clear. Okay? I can take so much water right here out of the air. It's not even funny. Buckets of water right out of the air. It's not white. A cloud is white. And so is chemtrail.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you, Don.
I'm yelling at you guys because I can't see you. It's the dumbest. It's the dumbest
sorry,
thing.
no, I'm not taking it like that. I'm not taking it like that. You're good, man. You're good. You're fine.
We don't
Plus,
feel
I like
yelled
you.
at.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all.
All right.
Yeah. As soon as you said you weren't good with technology, I understood. You're fine. Sorry.
No. It's not that I'm. It's not that I'm not good with
social media.
technology.
Social media.
I don't use computers the same way other people do.
Yeah.
Totally fine.
Yeah, but thank
I
you
read-
very much. This was some very interesting stuff. For real. I actually stopped
I'll get-
smoking.
I'll get somebody to help me practice with this stuff. And if you ever want to, have any questions or anything, hopefully I'll be better prepared next time, and I'll be able to see you guys and all that.
Oh no, thank you. Thank you.
You got it. This was an awesome episode,
I
bud.
thought it was fun. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Don, you look to me like a fellow that should start learning how to just record videos, because you seem to be one of those fellows that can talk with no problem in front of a camera, and you just have to publish your videos and help people out there trying to better figure it out, or where to look, or just putting the information out there without you having to being persecuted or worse, right?
Yeah, they put me through the mill. I just got a couple things that I was ahead of the curve. And I was one of the first people to figure out what these assholes were up to, and they didn't like it. I wasn't treated too well.
Well, Don, is there anything you want to leave, like for people to get in touch with you or anything? Any stuff you want to promote? Normally, I'm used to asking a show if drop their links or whatever. So I don't know what to say to you, to be honest.
I would say if anybody wants to talk, you want my email address. It's fergudon88@gmail.com.
All right, awesome. And I will, if you want, I can put that in the links too after the show, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine. Because if somebody has a question, why would I not talk to them?
Yeah. And if somebody's listening to this or whatever, and you're like, yeah, I understand what this guy's saying, maybe hit them up and throw some notes back and forth to each other.
Sure.
That's how we all learn. But again, Don, thank you so much, man. It was definitely interesting. We'll definitely get you back on and maybe talk some other weirder shit for sure. Everybody's links are in the bottom. I'm not going to go through everybody again, and it's already been almost 2.5 hours, so I don't want to drag this out another 10 minutes. Everybody's links are in the bottom. Again, Don, thank you so much. I really, really had a great chat. I appreciate you all coming on and spending, this time with me, and everybody in the chat. That's what's up. There was a lot of great stuff. You all hung for a while. Great. Thank you. And that is the end of another Occult Rejects.
One more thing.
Oh, yes.
I owe you some pictures, Nick.
Yeah, I'll take them. Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you some pictures of what we just talked about. I got you.
Definitely. All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir.
Right.
And yes, that is the end of another Occult Rejects. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.